Welcome to this mindfulness practice designed for building the character strength of forgiveness. And so, before we begin, let us find ourselves a comfortable position, a position where you're feeling at ease, but at the same time are able to bring this quality of attentiveness to yourself. And as you feel more settled in the body, let us then just start this practice today by closing our eyes or lowering our gaze, whatever is comfortable. And now, to help us settle in the mind, let us take a few deep, mindful breaths. So, taking deep inhales, filling up the lung as best as you can, and then gentle, gradual exhale, letting go of any remnant thoughts or feelings that you may be carrying over right now. And continuing to do this deep breathing where you mindfully observe the flow of the air as it enters your body and as it exits the body. Just doing this a few more times till you feel a little more settled. And then, when you're feeling a little more settled, just returning to the natural rhythm of the breath. Noticing the natural breath as it comes in and as the natural breath goes out. Just being present to every single breath. And continuing to do so for a little while more. Just bringing your mind completely to be present in the current moment and letting go of anything else that arises as thoughts or feelings in the mind. And now, when you're feeling comfortable, gently bring to mind a situation from the past that you still haven't forgiven yourself completely for. Any incident that you may have been involved in, where you may have done something wrong, or may have done something embarrassing, something for which you still haven't forgiven yourself completely. It could be a lie, or it could be your inability to perform in a certain way. or it could have been an action that hurt someone. Just bringing to mind any such event that a part of you still hasn't really completely forgiven yourself. And remembering that moment or that sequence of events as best as you can. Remembering who all were there or who all were involved in this. Remembering the environment or the surroundings. And also, as you do this, just noticing how this feeling of guilt or this lack of forgiveness feels. And as you do this, reflect on the following, that whenever this event happened, which still you regret, which a part of you is still unable to forgive yourself for, that you were a different person from who you are today, that perhaps you didn't know as much, or you weren't able to exercise self control in a way you may be able to do it today. And just noticing that forgiving yourself for it is not about forgetting the lesson you learned out of it, but is the first step towards improvement. For as someone said, to forgive is to set a prisoner free and discover that that prisoner was you. With that, just noticing if that guilt is productive in any way, carrying over that lack of forgiveness. And more often than not, you'll find that it holds you back more than lets you grow and change. And so maybe with this, just saying to yourself, even if it feels pretentious, that I am a different person now, that I did learn from whatever happened, and I forgive myself so that I can live a life of greater freedom and carry the lessons I've learned so as to not make the same error again as best as I can. And now, as you say this, gently letting go of this thought or feeling that you had recalled, and coming back to noticing the breath again. Letting go of that thought or emotion and only being present to the breath now. And now, when you're feeling settled, gently bring to mind something someone else has done around you, something for which you haven't forgiven either someone close to you or someone that's not so close but you dislike. And just bringing to mind the exact reason for which you hold this sense of grudge or are unable to forgive them for, even if it's a very small thing. And now, just as you learn to give yourself the permission to be human, the permission to have made a mistake since you were a different person, see if you can do that with this person as well. Knowing that you're not forgetting what they did, but just forgiving them for the hurt that they may have caused. Maybe they were in a certain mood, or they were in a certain situation that you may not have been completely aware of. And it was a reaction that came from that stress. And maybe it's possible they too regret doing or saying what they did, just as you were a few minutes back. And even if none of that is the case, just letting go and forgiving them, knowing that keeping this sense of hatred or anger or grudge against them makes you a prisoner, makes you in some ways a slave to those negativities. And so trying your best to just letting go of that grudge that you may have, recognizing that both they have the permission to be human and also that holding the lack of forgiveness is to your own detriment. And so, in your mind, if it feels okay, you may say to them that I don't know if I have forgiven you completely, but I recognize that you may have had a human moment. And that recognition is in part me understanding and letting it go. So, whatever it may have been, I do in part forgive you. And as you say that, recognize that your forgiveness isn't contingent on how they react or how they behave. Because by forgiving, you are yourself setting yourself free. And so now, whenever you're comfortable, just letting go of this situation again and gently returning back to observing the breath. If this may have been a little unsettling, you can take a few deeper breaths, but just noticing the breath come in and go out as you let go of the thoughts and emotions. And as we come closer to ending this practice for building the character strength of forgiveness, just recognizing that whenever in life you feel the sense of grudge or hate or any aspect in which you're unable to forgive somebody else or yourself, that you can keep coming back to this practice to build greater forgiveness in you. For forgiveness in its truest sense is the path to both freedom and well-being. And so with that, whenever you feel comfortable, you may gradually open your eyes and come back as you hear this bell.